And welcome to the Council on Aging meeting for April 3rd. Bring this meeting call to order at about 1:01, so let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. Nancy, will you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Francine, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fotheringham.
Here.
Commissioner Grimm.
Yep.
Commissioner Healy.
Here.
Commissioner Kopaz.
Here.
Commissioner Loomis.
Estoy.
Commissioner Norkin is on a cruise. Commissioner Shentes.
Yep.
Commissioner Searden.
Here.
And Commissioner Wing.
Here.
Thank you.
Wow, nice and stentorian. Well, it's springtime, and I guess the juice is starting to flow, so we've got lots of public comments. This is a time on the agenda where we do invite the public to state comments regarding items within the purview of the Commission. You'll have 3 minutes, and we got a bunch of folks who want to have some comments, so please hold it to the 3 minutes then. And I'll call your names when you're ready, when I'm ready, or when the board's ready. What the hell? Well, this is a first. I've been requested to introduce the first public speakers as a duet. So, Angel and Linda, this is your time for public comments.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us today. Thank you, Council. Okay, thank you. My name is Linda Archie. I am co-founder of Moving Seniors Forward Community Resource Group. We have been established since April of 2008 here in our community, and we are a group of compassionate professionals who offer services, products, and information for people 50 plus and their families. We also sponsor and co-sponsor events throughout the year, educational events and some fun-filled events too in our community, and we have done so since our existence. We have an upcoming event, April 11th. We are co-sponsoring with Belmont Village, and Angel Creel is going to tell us a little bit more about the program that we're having this coming April 11th.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. I want to let the council know, as well as the public, that we are sponsoring an event with Moving Seniors Forward. It's called the Spring Fling, and it is a vendor fair that we will be hosting at our community, where the public will have an opportunity to meet all the members of Moving Seniors Forward, as well as enjoy some hors d'oeuvres and some refreshments. We will also be having a couple of speakers there. We have 2 physicians from UCLA. Let's see.
Yeah, we have an internist and a cardiologist.
Dr. Roman Libson and Dr. Chelsea Newmark, and both will be presenting at the community during this event. So we welcome the public. It's going to be held Thursday, April 11th from 4:30 to 6:30 at Belmont Village, 3680 North Moore Park Road, Thousand Oaks, 91360. If you want more information about the group, about Moving Seniors Forward, you can go to their website, movingseniorsforward.org. And if you want more information about this specific event, you can go to belmontvillage.com.
Also, we'll be having raffles, raffle items, hors d'oeuvres, desserts, some wine if you like that. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and you can take a tour of the facility also if you'd like to do that. And so we welcome all of you to come. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, for our first duet, that wasn't bad, although I think a little bit more baritone from you, Linda, please. The next person wishing to come to the fore of the podium is a good friend from Senior Concerns, Andrea Gallagher, who's doing double duty today.
And look at that girl move.
Thank you, Commissioner Searden. Thank you. We have lots of exciting things going on at Senior Concerns this month, and I'll keep it brief. The first is every month from October to May, we have a Solving the Aging puzzle series, and this year it's all about the family caregiver. And so our one for April, which is Tuesday, April 9th, is on the mechanics of caregiving. And the way to think about this is how do we help the family caregiver going about the daily duties of family caregiving. And so it encompasses home modification and in-home technology. And the two speakers that we have are both experts in their field, but on top of it, they both have been family caregivers, so they get it. Anyway, that is Tuesday, April 9th from 4:30 to 6 o'clock, right at Senior Concerns, which is at 401 Hodenkamp Road. And you can call 805-497-0189 for reservations. Betty Berry is also doing one of her famous seminars. This is on identity theft, fraud, and scams. That's going to be Wednesday, April 10th from 1:30 to 3 at the Westlake Village Civic Center, which is at 31200 East Oakcrest Drive. And you can call 495-6250. That's area code 805-495-6250 for more information. And then lastly, for you ladies in the audience that might want to have something interesting and fun to do, we have a Second Chance fashion show. And that's put on by Senior Concerns. It's going to be at Movie Co. So the way to think about this is you enter Movie Co. We're going to have passed champagne and little pastries. We're going to be selling items from our thrift store, and we're going to have a silent auction afterwards. There's a light lunch and the fashion show, and then we all go in to see Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's a Breakfast at Tiffany's theme. So we're very excited about that. We only have truly about 20 tickets left. They're $55 a piece. It is Tuesday, April 23rd at 11:30 a.m. And again, you can call Senior Concerns at 805-497-0189 for reservations. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Andrea. Got anything in my size?
We will have some men's size.
What? Oh, boring. Thank you, Andrea. We'll see more of her later. The next speaker is Lloyd Hartley, and he's got something called Dusty Shoe here, folks, so let's pay attention.
Good afternoon. My name is Lloyd Hartley, and I'm a director at Atria Hillcrest. We are an independent and assisted living community. We are neighbors of Senior Concerns. One of the things that I wanted to announce today, it's a Dusty Shoe Tour. Well, what is that? We are putting in a brand new memory care wing. It will be open probably late April. And what we're doing is we're announcing for anyone that is interested, you can come over on Friday, April 12th. At 1 to 3:30, we're going to have Dusty Shoe Tours. You're going to get to walk through and see. It won't be quite completed. It will certainly be safe, and you'll get a really good idea of how the community has put its memory care wing together. In addition, we will be introducing you to our new director, Mark Stelzer. I'm excited about it. It's so needed. I've heard so many comments from so many people that a memory care wing being added now is just the perfect thing at the right time. I have brought over some collateral if you want to know how to get there. I will give you our address. It's 405 Hodenkamp Road, Thousand Oaks. Our phone number is 805-373-0606, and I'm sure there will be some great refreshments and beverages and things of that sort. So we look forward to seeing you there. And as time goes on, I'll be coming back to give you more Dusty Shoe Tour reports. Thank you. Yes. 1 to 3:30. Okay? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Lloyd, for letting us know, because I know those facilities are needed and maybe more than we really care to believe. Our next speaker really needs no introduction. He's emeritus from our commission here, Mel Silverberg.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, members of the commission. My name is Mel Silverberg, and I'm a Thousand Oaks resident and a volunteer advocate for the senior adult community. Thank you for the opportunity to address the commission. I appear today to endorse the proposed Many Mansions senior housing project at the site on Hillcrest Road. The need is clear, and the time is now. I commend the Sandpick Housing Team and the Commission for developing a timely letter of support to the city. This is an important milestone for the Council on Aging, demonstrating the proactive process needed for the Council on Aging to exercise its vital advocacy role and responsibility on behalf of the senior community. This vision is articulated in SAMP, and our seniors look forward to a continuing series of such actions, thus setting a fine example for those who follow us. Let us stand back and put this in proper perspective. The last affordable low-income senior housing complex was completed by the Area Housing Authority in 2004. The Many Mansions Senior Housing Project is expected to be completed in 2014. That's 10 years. Permit me a bit of history. In 2008, Many Mansions, in partnership with B'nai B'rith International, proposed two very low-income affordable housing projects on the same site, a senior housing complex and a multifamily complex. The city rejected the proposal largely on the grounds of the needs to remove massive truckloads of earth and site preparation. Yet the City Council last month approved the site under the same conditions for a private developer. Recall, in 2008, redevelopment agency funding was still available. This is an example of a lost opportunity for seniors. Given the demographic challenge of the next 10 years and beyond, current waiting lists of 55-plus-year-old boomers and seniors will mushroom to several thousand by then. This city is on an unsustainable path to meet the affordable senior housing needs of the next decade and beyond. The recent update of the city's housing element failed to properly address these concerns. Public comments to this effect were sent to the Planning Commission and to the city. There is an urgent need for the city to face the future with a measured, planned strategy for senior housing. The current approach does not address the needs or the challenges. Now is the time for the Planning Commission, in partnership with the Council on Aging, to get us on the right track. On Monday, I plan to propose this initiative to the Planning Commission and on Tuesday to the City Council. I will not address your letter at that time, as the Many Mansions project is not yet before either of those bodies. In closing, despite all of its fiscal challenges, I believe the city needs to accord our senior community a higher priority for its proposed 2013-2014 goal setting. In their first try on March 5th, 11 priority goals were set, but nowhere on the list was the word senior even mentioned. Yeah. I intend to address that issue also on Tuesday. To quote William Jennings Bryan, destiny is not a matter of chance, but of choice, not something to wish for, but to attain. Thank you very much.
Mel, it's always good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. I guess I should have reminded everybody how loquacious yet long-winded you are, though. But thank you for keeping track of us. So, yeah, the red light was flashing, my friend.
Red light?
Colorblind, you know that. All right. Following that act is Jane Messier. Please come to the podium.
Which one? You saved the shortest to last. I appreciate that. Can you hear me? Yes. I feel your pain. I'm Jane Messier. I'm with the Transportation Committee. I'd like to invite everyone to a May 22nd event at the Goebel Center. We will be having our first travel training that teaches people how to get around not only the Conejo Valley, but to make transfers over to Simi and as far up as Ventura. I took the training about 3 years ago myself, and I highly recommend it. You never know when your car's going to break down, or you will. And I had both of those events. 3 years ago, I had three months without my car. They could not figure out what was wrong with it. And most recently in December, I took a little trip and fractured my foot. So I just got out of my boot last week. So I couldn't drive with the boot on either. So it's very important, I think, to learn how to use the system before you have to, or start begging your neighbors for rides and everything. And I'd like to reiterate that all Dial-A-Ride card holders take the bus for free. And ADA card holders as well. And the buses are equipped with bike racks. They are kneeling so that they can go down to more nearly curbside level, and they will accommodate 2 wheelchairs per bus. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Jane. We always know you're on the scene with the transit system. Thank you. Like to now bring Russ Watson to the podium, please.
Commissioner Grimm and members of the Council on Aging. My name is Russ Watson. I am the team chair for the housing team for the Senior Adult Master Plan. I'm here on behalf of the proposed letter of support, of which I would be a co-signer on that letter. Just a bit of a brief summary. Mini Mansions team, both Alex and Tracy are here today. We'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Made a presentation to the housing team at our meeting last month. Following that presentation, our team did not really have a long time to really discuss the project or actually get to a point of support. However, we did that at our meeting yesterday, and the housing team unanimously recommended this letter of support. And even just as a note, even those members that could not attend the meeting had sent emails acknowledging that they would approve support of this. So I would venture to say we have unanimous support for this project from the housing team. And as Mel noted, it's been over 10 years since the city has had a new affordable senior housing plan before them that I think has a good location. It's on current transportation links. It's a good site, and Mini Mansions is a seasoned and experienced developer for this type of project in the community and has a great relationship with the city council. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions and just acknowledge my support for the project, the team's support for the project, and desire to co-sign this letter.
Russ, this is not a done deal yet, then, I guess, right?
Well, I would let Mini Mansions get to any of the details. They have basically an exclusive right to purchase this site, and there are some zoning and general plan hurdles and entitlements that the city has to authorize for this project to move forward.
All right.
Yeah.
May not want to get too far away, but we'll bring up Alex Russell from the Mini Mansions organization.
Good afternoon.
To go into a little bit more in depth of what Russ just introduced.
Yeah, my name is Alex Russell. I'm the Vice President of Housing Development with Mini Mansions. Here with Tracy Miller, one of our senior project managers. We were fortunate to get a presentation before the Sampic Housing Committee, as well as the majority of the members of this group earlier last month. And we talked a lot about the projects. I won't go into a tremendous amount of detail, but we're looking to provide 80 units of affordable housing for low-income seniors here in Thousand Oaks on Hillcrest Drive. The project is 55 plus. Again, for 100% of the units would be for low-income seniors paying affordable rents with on-site services, including transportation assistance, service coordination, fitness classes, and various art classes and types of programs. We're really excited about the project, but having many hurdles ahead of us. We're looking to get a general plan amendment and a zone change, which is the letter of support that we're seeking. We're starting the design process now, and have already got a lot of great feedback from this group, as well as the housing committee that we're incorporating into the project. And as we continue to develop the project, we'll be back to talk about more details and make sure that this is a project we can all be proud of. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer it, but we look forward to working with you guys to make it a reality. Yes, please. How to get on your list? Oh, to get on the waiting list for it? We'll send out some information to Francine about how to do that. It's essentially a first-come, first-served process as far as the the projects are concerned. We haven't started a waiting list for this project yet, obviously, because it's so far along. Russ alluded to, we're looking to start construction next summer because we still have a number of hurdles to go through first, and it wouldn't be opening until probably the summer of 2015.
Any other questions? Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
All right, that closes public comments, but it segues into item 5. And admittedly, Mel, Russ, Alex, and Tracy have all done the heavy lifting on this, but we do feel very fortunate the Council on Aging, with its associated SAMP Housing Committee, did get to voice some opinions and thoughts on this. And we are very pleased that this is now to the point where we can introduce our letter of recommendation to City Council. I would like to ask for a motion that we accept the letter of recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion on this, on the commissions? I know we looked through it, and so...
Call the question.
Wow, moving right along.
It's a good project.
All right, let's have a vote, please, then. All those in favor? Raise your hands, ayes, or... Oh, thank you, Nick. Jeez, you want to change the letter from unanimous. All right, so be it. Oh, what did I do wrong?
Nothing. Motion passes 8-0. Commissioner Norkin is absent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you again. It should be a wonderful program. We're glad to see it is on the way to becoming a reality for Thousand Oaks.
It brings us to an entirely different, but a no less important subject. We're kind of giddy today because there are all kinds of wonderful things happening. We are now at item 6, committee reports, and we're going to hear more about the Conejo Connections Resource Center from the other end of the temple. Please, Martin.
Sorry, forgot about this. Well, the Conejo Connections Resource Center opened unofficially last month at the Oaks Shopping Center. Now, it's located across from the food court on the lower level. Gets a lot of traffic in that area. The center is open every day except Monday from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m., and it's staffed by 23 adult volunteers and 7 teenage volunteers. They are divided into 2 shifts. Each shift has an adult volunteer working with a teenage volunteer. And it was decided to try this little experiment and see how the intergenerational feature would work out. And I'm happy to say it's working out even better than any of us thought it would. Now, the Resource Center was a cooperative effort. The City of Thousand Oaks, Council on Aging, the Oaks Shopping Center, the Conejo Youth Employment Services, Senior Concerns, and CSVP. It began as a project with the SAMPIC Assistant and Volunteer Committee. This original SAMP survey had an area in it where respondents could write in questions over and above the yes-no answers that we asked for. And some of the comments that people put in there, they were asking for things that we knew already existed, but somehow they did not know about it. So the committee decided that what we really needed was a central database that was easily accessible to the community. So this committee then formed a committee to look into what was available and decided what we needed was a whole new approach where we combined many databases into one that we could all gain access to. And the name Conejo Connections Resource Center came much later after much discussion on a name. The committee had people available who had experience in all of the areas we needed to staff this program. We had people who actually had professional experience in marketing and publicity, database management, training programs.
And they formed subcommittees for each of these areas that were essential to establishing the center. And I guess we owe a great deal of thanks to these people for the effort they put in to overcome the many obstacles they had to go through to get to this day. Now, the volunteers to run the center were recruited by CSVP and the Conejo Youth Employment Services. They were given classroom training by people who were experienced in running training programs. On March 1st, we had an open house at the mall, right outside our center, for all the volunteers. And we had an unofficial opening of the center on March the 5th. On April 9th, from 4 to 6 p.m., there will be a grand opening celebration at the lower level food court plaza. The Conejo Connections Resource Center is a continuous long-term effort. The personnel involved will keep changing over the years because, people move away, get new jobs, and, come in and out of the program. So we will always have a need for new volunteers. We have a special need right now for volunteers who can step in as substitutes for the regular volunteers who have to take a day off for one reason or another. So if you're interested in joining this great opportunity to help your community, please call Cindy Powers at, 381-2742, or you can email her at cpowers@crpd.org. It's been really amazing for us to learn what a dedicated small group of volunteers can accomplish, and we're going to be forever grateful for them for their efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner Shentas. Commissioner Grimm, you've got the...
No.
May I?
It's a tag team.
May I? Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. In terms of the volunteers, since I've been retired, I've volunteered a lot, and I've met some of the nicest people in terms of friendship, not just giving back to your community, but for yourself. Since we have been doing that, I have volunteered myself a couple of times at the different dates, and it is really so much fun. I have met 2 or 3 nice new friends. So if you want to come out to give something back to the community, it really is good. If you want to come out for selfish reasons to volunteer like me, you can really, it's really fun. I mean, it's very enjoyable, a nice way to spend the day. And we really do appreciate it. And again, I would like to echo Martin's thanks to that group that put this together. It was a pretty amazing collaboration. So please, if you want to volunteer for something that's fun and good for you, please come in and help us. We'd love that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Healy. And now, Commissioner Grimm, you have the helm again.
You do that at 7.
No, you do 7.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to do liaisons.
Yeah, do the liaison. Belay that order.
Aye, aye. You don't know that he was a longtime naval officer. And a very interesting job, but we'll go into that later. Now, to item 7, liaison reports. The first, 7A, Commissioner Fotheringham.
Thank you, Leonard. The Ventura County Area Agency on Aging has the advisory committee on which Commissioners Healy and I serve, has a subcommittee on legislation. And one of the roles of this subcommittee is to review legislation pending in the California legislature that may impact seniors. And today I'd like to discuss one piece of the legislation that's currently under review, and this is Assembly Bill 322, also known as the Home Care Services Act of 2013, which was authored by Assemblywoman Yamada from Davis. Home care services are something are needed to enable many seniors to remain in their own homes rather than having to move into assisted living or something similar. Currently, only a business license is needed to operate as a provider of these services. There's no requirement for background checks or training of persons providing such services in your home. Unlike repairmen and other service providers, we allow, repairmen and other service providers whom we allow in our homes, home care providers have much more intimate access to our lives and our valuables. In addition to improving these requirements, Assembly Bill 322 seeks to establish a client's Bill of Rights. Some of the features of this Bill of Rights include your right to be informed of and to participate in the planning of home care services to be provided to you, your right to have your property treated with respect, your right to have the confidentiality of your personal information protected, and your right to be informed of the hours, services, and costs of any home care services provided to you. You may want to ask your representatives in the California legislature to join Assemblywoman Yamada as a co-author of this bill. In the meantime, if you're seeking home care services, we have in our community a tremendous resource in Senior Concerns, who have themselves vetted many of the home care services providers and can provide you with input on which service providers tend to have the best reputation among the people they've previously provided service to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Fotheringham. It took me about 3.5 years to figure out what RSVP meant. And then the powers that be changed the funding, and now it's called CS, or whatever it's called, CSVP, but the same wonderful person is in charge of it, and Cindy Powers. Martin, have you got something to tell us about CSVP right now?
It'll take a while for us to get used to this name change. Right. I keep falling into the habit of saying RSVP. And I noticed in this report I wrote up before on the Resource Center, I kept going back and forth between RSVP and CSVP. But I think I'm getting to it now. It really is going to be CSVP from now on. But the same people are staffing it over there at the Global Idol Community Center. And I think it should be even better than it is, although it's pretty wonderful now. It'll probably be even better in the future. The only other thing I want to remind you that our CSVP, as you know, sponsors the tax preparation program for seniors and people who are below senior age who have low income. And that is continuing right now. While IRS will allow you to wait until April the 15th to submit your tax return, this program will end on April the 12th, which is a week from Friday. We will not be working on the following Monday. So if you want to get your taxes done this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and next Wednesday and Thursday, Friday will be our last days. At Wednesday, it's over at the Newbury Park Library, and on Thursdays and Fridays, it's over here at the Global Adult Community Center. The hours are, I believe it's 9 to 3 or 4 at the library, and on Thursday it's 9 to 4 at the senior center, and it's on Fridays it's from 9 to 3. And please do not come in at the last minute. It drives us crazy when the people do that. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. The last item in 7 is the GAC. I've got to play with these. People that invented acronyms, there's a special place for them in the here and after. That stands for the Global Adult Community Center, but thankfully we have a non-GAC person here in Andrea. Go ahead, Ellie.
Oh, well. I just want to go off of a couple of things you all mentioned, so thank you. The Resource Center at the Oaks Mall is actually going to be a really cool opening coming up. So make sure you do come on Tuesday, April 9th from 4 to 6. The mayor will be there, CRPD, Director Gibson will be there, and a whole bunch of others, everybody that made this come together. And, of course, there's food samplings, too, from the mall. So besides being able to call the Global Center and getting lots of information, people can actually find all sorts of things down there at the Resource Center. So we're all extremely, extremely proud of it, and it will be a nice 2-hour grand opening to get to know everything and everybody and how it all works. So make sure you do come. And RSVP, so we know how many people and food and all that good stuff. As far as the taxes, yes, the taxes will be ending on the 12th, which is Friday at the Goebel Center. So Wednesdays, it is at the Newberry Park Library off of Borchard Road. It's not far from the Alamo. It's where a grocery store used to be. And that's from 9 to 3. And Thursdays is 9 to 4 at Goebel. And Friday is 9 to 3. Thursdays seem to be the biggest day for some odd reason. So if you can wait till the this Friday, come in. But I'm sure now we're getting down to the wire. It probably won't matter which day. But that's the way it has been. And I wouldn't wait till that 3 or 4 o'clock time, because a lot of the tax preparers are actually staying till almost 5 or after, finishing people up that were there at 2. So I'd come around 2:30 at the latest if you want to get your taxes done. So with that being said on those fun things, I wanted to bring up a few things. We got new trips coming on sale Friday, April 12th. So last day to file your taxes at Goebel as well. So you can use your rebates and get a trip to How the West Was Fun. And that will be it's a round trip, and you'll go to the Will Rogers Ranch House, lunch at the Saddle Ranch Chop House, which is a buffet, and a self-guided tour at the Autry Center. So that's what the How the West Was Fun is all put together. Lights Camera Los Angeles. And again, it's round trip, and you're going to see Our Lady of Angels Cathedral, Olivera Street, Walt Disney Concert Hall, and some sites in L.A. and Hollywood. And you get to go to lunch at Felipe's. So and some free time for shopping and wandering around. So that'll be a fun trip, getting to see all those sites that you don't like to drive around L.A. to go see. And then the Red Car Revival. So again, a round trip, lunch and brewery tour at the Red Car Brewery in Torrance, and a visit to the fire station, and you get to go to the marketplace, Crafted Marketplace, and of course the restored Red Car in San Pedro. So these are some fun and interesting trips. So those go on sale April 12th, and they're running $75 to $95 for those 3. We still have room for our Flower Mart tour, Huntington Library, and Around the World in a Day. And Around the World in the Day, that's going to be taken off this April 17th. That's going to include Chinatown, Little Tokyo, Olivera Street, and more. And you get to have lunch at Papa Cristo's Tavernera. So those are some really good trips that you can take now and sign up for in the future. But as far as fun things going on, our community garage sale is coming up, and that's going to be Sunday, April 14th. So we still have spaces if you would like to get rid of some good stuff to sell and make some extra money. This is what we call our spring cleaning edition. Or you can come and find some other person's good stuff that you might need at your house. So it's also a fundraiser for a Goebel Center Commission. So spaces are $20 each. And tables available. There's limited quantities. You can get an extra $5 for a table. But if you want to come and shop and all that kind of good stuff, it's free. So just show up. It's 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. So that'll be on Sunday, April 14th.
Andrea, will there be refreshments?
Oh, yes. Yes. The Goebel Center Commission is going to be doing some wonderful refreshments. So they'll have hot dogs and chips and sodas. I believe water. I know and they're going to do nachos this year too. Then in the morning, I know they're having coffee. I don't know what else you guys are doing.
Donuts, I believe.
I think you're doing donuts.
Might be a bagel in there somewhere.
There might be some bagels in there. But I definitely know coffee and donuts. So, yeah, so you can also get some food. So if you're there very early and still need your coffee, you can get coffee from them. Or if it's a nice warm day, you can get your soda and have your lunch and walk around. We are doing a Goebel Gallery art reception. Our artists from the Goebel Center, their beautiful artworks up on the wall, and we will be having an art reception on Thursday, April 25th, and that's from 3:30 to 5. So come on out and take a peek at the wonderful original works of art up on our wall, and some of them are for sale. You might find something you want, but if nothing else, get to meet the artist and see some really nice art. And we also have Caring for a Loved One, Wednesday, April 17th. This is going to be a whole panel thing, and it's going to be talking about care in the home, education for your caregivers, community services, and a whole bunch more other things, and a whole bunch of free things where you can find information without having to pay for it or find things. So that'll be a nice panel. That's from 3:30 to 5. and just call in and we'll get you on the list. We also have Ventura County Master Gardeners are doing edible landscaping. That's coming up this Saturday on the 6th. So they're saying it's good for the environment and provides healthy and delicious food, can reduce water and chemical use, so learn how to design and install, promote, and maintain your own little edible landscape. And as was brought up, the Conejo Connections Resource Center, so if you forget, it is on the front of our newsletter, so you don't have to worry about that. We are still doing the Ms. Senior Conejo Valley tournament, which is going to be going for the... excuse that person. So anyway, the Ms. Senior Conejo Valley pageant, that is coming up on May 19th, and they're wonderful women are going to be up there. They're all 60 plus. Their philosophy of life, their evening gown, their entertainment, and tickets are only $5. So you get a really good afternoon of entertainment and seeing some really neat ladies, and we've got some really cool judges. And that's going to be from 1:30 to 4, and that's on a Sunday. The tickets are available at the Goebel Center, so make sure you do come out for that. And I think, are we done with the Senior of the Year nominations? That didn't get mentioned, so I didn't know if that was something that is finished. Are we still doing Senior of the Year nominations? Yeah. Till the 15th, all right. So if you have a wonderful senior volunteer in your organization or know a friend that is just always gone, never home because they're out there volunteering, you can get forms at the library, City Hall. You can get some over at the Goebel Center so we can nominate somebody really phenomenal. Everybody gets recognized, and there's one big-time winner, but it's really a wonderful evening. And you, as I said, so the 15th of this month, get those in, and then we will have our wonderful Senior of the Year event in June. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
You keep things always busy, I tell you, Andrea. The last portion, item 8, is commissioner comments. And this is where commissioners can provide any information, comment, or announcements, which we will not take any action at this point. At this time, are there any commissioner comments? All right, lead off is Lynn.
Almost everyone in this room has already suffered a hearing loss. Many people in this room may be taking care of folks that have a hearing loss. To address that problem in the Conejo Valley, in mid-June, on the 15th and the following Saturday, the 22nd, the Council on Aging and its housing team will host a workshop designed to provide hearing devices that is, telephonic hearing devices to people who need them. I'm letting you know about this right now because we're going to begin to ask in a week or two for reservations. The reason why reservations are needed is because the people from the California Telephone Assistance Program are going to bring vans of equipment from all over Southern California, and they're going to bring them up to the library and have them available to fit people who need these telephonic devices with them on the spot. So keep this pinned in your memory. The 15th and the 22nd of June in the library, California Telephone Assistance Program, the Council on Aging and its Housing Committee are sponsoring. Our health committee are sponsoring. What did I say? Aging committee?
No, close though.
I told you we're giddy. Thank you.
Leonard, are these devices that are handed out free of charge, or is there?
Yeah, the devices are free of charge. Some of them are quite expensive. I have one that is retails for about $300 at Amazon.com. There is such a wide variety of these devices. Any kind of possible device that you can think of to help with your hearing or with someone's hearing is going to become available. At the same time, Francine is going to provide us with a slew of teenager technologists who will help us get our cell phones back to doing what we want them to do. It's going to be a great event.
Any other comments on Lens? No, go ahead. Take it away, Nance.
I assume this is the right time to announce my next program. I'd like to invite everybody to every one of our first Wednesday of the month programs for the whole. It goes September through June, right? We have great programs. But in May, we're having a program that I think is very, very important. Dr. Lisa Hayden, who is a local psychologist, is going to do a program on, I think the real title we're going to call it is Depression is Not a Normal Part of Aging. And it is more difficult, I think, for people in my age group, the senior age group, sometimes to admit that they have a problem with depression. It can come from many, many different things. But she is going to talk about some resources that are available, some ways to help. There is actually a phone line that seniors can call. So maybe if you feel great yourself, but you have a friend who just hasn't been seeming to be with it, suggest maybe they come with you. And one of the things that they will talk about, I know, is that volunteering is a great thing to do with depression. So if anybody also wants to volunteer at the Resource Center, it would be your perfect time to combine the things. But she's really good at it. I work with her on the county's Council on Aging, and this is a very strong passion for her. She does phone calls herself at night at home on her personal phone. So it is that important. Please, it's the first Wednesday of May, which I believe is May 1st, and I think we will have a lunch before that, Meet the Speaker lunch from 12 to 1, and then the program goes from 1 to 3. Please join us. It's a great program. Thank you.
Thank you, Nance. Thank you again. Boy, I just love the way you can get a plug in for the CCRC. That's great, kiddo. Boy, oh boy. Anyone else with any other announcements, comments, birthdays, anniversaries that you're allowed to acknowledge? All right, no. But one thing I did want to bring up, I don't know if the cameraman can see this, but this has to do with Arbor Day, Arbor Earth Day that's going to be here in the community. It's going to be held April 13th, a week from this Saturday. I bring this up because this kind of information is on the website, the Thousand Oaks City website. You can find out more information on this activity, the Arbor Earth Day, on www.toaks.org. And if you go to the calendar section, you can find either on a particular date or go into, again, the calendar section, and you'll find different subtitles of different organizations or groups that will have information available. Is that about it for now? I would like to remind everybody to buy local, because it does help us in a direct way as far as the tax money come back. And certainly appreciate everyone for being here. Now we'll move on to the next portion of our meeting, which is our panel of speakers. Our moderator is again someone who you've seen. Modifier. You know. Don't hold that against me, Corky. All right. Yeah. Sorry, Andrea. I'm dragging this out more, but I'm trying to get people to forget what I just said. Andrea Gallagher has become quite, almost like a linchpin in the senior community as far as what goes on. As you all know, she is president of Senior Concerns, and among other things, she's a certified senior advisor. I hope all of you have seen her columns in the Acorn. It's under the headline, The Other Side of 50. And she's also co-editor and contributor to the award-winning book, Live Smart After 50, The Expert's Guide to Life Planning for Uncertain Times. Andrea, thank you for being here, and it's yours.
There we go. Now can you all hear me? Great, thanks. Speaking of legacy, I wanted to tell you a little legacy that sort of sticks with my family, and we call it the caregiver gene. And it goes back a very long way, but I'll only talk about it in terms of my parents and myself. When I was maybe 10 or 11, I got very sick and ended up in the hospital, and actually at one point in time was in the hospital for 7 months. And I grew up in New Hampshire. The hospital was in Massachusetts, in Mass General Hospital. So my mom, at one point, with 2 other children at home, had to quit her job so that she could come and visit me every day and take care of me and, be my advocate in the hospital. And as that all happened, I learned what caregiving was all about. The fact that she was there, that she was taking care of me, that she was an advocate for me, that she was seeing to my needs, became very real for me at a very young age. Fast forward to maybe about 10 years ago, and my husband and I moving into a new neighborhood in the Thousand Oaks side of Westlake Village, and we met an elderly neighbor couple. And he was 83 and she was 86, Fred and Hildy. And we learned that they had no children and they had no living relatives in the area. And what started out as just doing small favors for them ended up blossoming into a true caregiving experience. After Fred had a stroke and he was Hildy's caregiver, we actually cared for Hildy at home until Fred could get out of the hospital. And over time, we became their legal, financial, and medical powers of attorney. And we cared for them until they passed, Hildy first and Fred a year and 5 days later. And that experience helped to close the loop for me in at least understanding up until almost 55, age 55 here, what my legacy has been thus far. And it really is that I have taken on that caregiving gene and I have passed it forward and will continue to do so. It allowed me to understand my passion for caring for seniors and to being an advocate for helping people to plan their lives so that they can be prepared for as much as they can for both the possibilities and the probabilities of getting older. It aligns with my values. It definitely helped me to understand what my legacy is thus far in my life. But not all of us are that fortunate to be able to have an experience that crystallizes for us what our legacy is. One of the ways you start by understanding your legacy is to increase your self-awareness, to understand how to make sense of our lives. What is it that all these various experiences have brought to me? It also helps us to make wiser plans for the future, and it allows us to be more in control. So legacy is actually a great process for many different reasons. And after 50-plus years, many of us have lots of experiences, whether they be achievements or losses or relationships or careers. And I like to think of those experiences as different ingredients in a recipe. I remember when I was first married and I'd bring home the groceries and I'd take out the chicken and the carrots and the flour and the celery and my husband would say, "You have all this food but nothing's for eating," because it hadn't been made into anything yet. And so I like to think of our experiences as ingredients in a recipe. On their own, they stand for something, but when combined together, they make a recipe. And that recipe is our legacy. I'm going to move on here if that's okay. Let's see. I call legacy a timeless pursuit, and it is for a reason. In our 30s and 40s, where many of us had been raising kids, working hard at a job, soccer games, kids' practices, after-school activities, late nights working, and in all that frenzy, there really wasn't time to step back and say, who are we? Because we were caring for others and supporting our career. But once you sort of hit that 50-mile marker, there's a new way of looking at things. And I think many of us step back and say, what does it all mean? It might come at 50 or 60 or 70 or 80, but at some point, it dawns on us that there has to be a reason for all of this. And so one of the questions we ask ourselves often is, what am I going to do to leave this world a better place than the way I found it? I can tell you all those commissioners sitting on the dais right now are doing that currently. I'm sure part of the reason that calls them to provide this public service that they do is because it is that they're going to be able to leave a mark in the community. What wisdom and life lessons am I passing on to the next generation? I remember when I was, I must have been 10, and I went to visit my dad's mom. And I remember her sitting me down in a chair and saying to me, honey, don't ever marry a man expecting to change him. And I wasn't quite sure what that meant at the time, but as I can see what my grandmother had to put up with my grandfather later on, I understood. And how do I want to be remembered? So I as we think about those things, those are all the things that help us to understand and make sense of our lives. You know, some legacies evolve. Here's Lance Armstrong, champion cyclist, 7 Tour de France's. And then, of course, because of the whole doping scandal, he lost so many things. Not only did he lose sponsorships with companies like Nike and Anheuser-Busch and Trek bicycles, but more importantly, he lost the leadership of his foundation. And that was a tragic loss, both for the foundation and for him personally. The beauty of legacy, though, is it doesn't end there. He has the opportunity to redeem himself. He has the opportunity to do other great things. And so our legacy evolves. It continues to evolve over time. Other legacies are discovered. These are my parents. My mother, Barbara, on the left. My dad, Emil, but we call him Bubbles. His father was also named Bubbles, and don't ask me why. We tried to pry that information out of my grandfather before he left, but we couldn't get it. Anyway, my mom right now is 78. My dad's 82. He's had Parkinson's for the last 12 years. He's now wheelchair-bound, and my mom is his full-time caregiver. Talk about the legacy of caregiving and how it continues in my family. As my dad's speech is going because of the Parkinson's, recently we did a thing called Life Chronicles with my dad. It's a nonprofit up in Santa Barbara, and they come to folks that are either near end of life, or it could be somebody that has cancer. It could be somebody like my dad who's progressively going to lose his voice and not going to be able to put down memories for us in his own voice. And they came in and filmed my mom and dad as a team. And it was the questions that Kate, who runs the organization, was asking that really caused my parents to have an epiphany about their legacy. And my mom, who was a stay-at-home mom probably for the first 6 years, and then became a secretary to the superintendent of schools. And my dad was a lighting engineer for Sylvania, GTE Sylvania. But they both had other passions. My mom was very much into arts and crafts. You may remember many years ago, there were these grapes that people made out of glass molds. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but anyway, she did a lot of that work. She made candlesticks out of some woodworking. She was a master sewer, did all of our clothes and our Halloween costumes. My dad was a woodworker. I swear sometimes he just went in the basement to get rid of, to get away from all the 4 girls in the house. But he also was a sculptor. And actually, one of his sculptures they used for Special Olympics one year. And as they were talking about this, and Kate was asking questions, it dawned on them that their legacy was a legacy of creativity, and how it had gone down in all our families with their 3 daughters. I'm creative in the writing realm. My other sister is creative in the graphic arts world. My other sister in the horticulture world. And my nieces and nephews, all of them creative in their own way. And matter of fact, one of them is in school for Masters of Fine Arts. So it was a wonderful, and it only was just discovered in that conversation, but it was a wonderful experience for them to understand how, I'm going to get a little choked up here, but how what was important to them, even though it wasn't their job, it wasn't their career, it wasn't, but it was a theme throughout their entire lives. So I would tell you that sometimes it is just about either your legacy is evolving or you'll have an opportunity to discover it. So if indeed right now you're thinking, holy cow, I don't know what my legacy is, what I'd like to do is introduce you to some panelists here today. I'm going to introduce them. They're going to talk about their experiences, and then I'm going to come back and tell you some ways in which, or offer some ways in which you can think about discovering your legacy or documenting your legacy. Okay? So first I'd like to introduce the group here to my left. I'm going to ask Annette to pronounce her own last name, if that's okay. I butcher it every single time. Last name?
Broersma.
Okay, beautiful. I might remember that now.
I've been working on it.
Annette is the Community Relations Director at the Reserve at Thousand Oaks, which is a senior living community. She has a master's degree in counseling and guidance from Cal Lutheran, where she held the position of Director of Career Services. After caring for her own parents for 7 years, Annette has committed herself to using her education, skills, and experience to help the senior population. Joyce Ward, right here. Joyce moved to the Reserve a year ago from Grover Beach, California, with her husband. And after settling at the Reserve, they've been willing participants in many of the opportunities that have come along, including a Nickelodeon TV show on parenting. She and her husband are accomplished artists and leaders in the resident art program. Christine Trunick? Trunick, well, there we go. I got that one right. Is an undergrad student at Cal Lutheran, majoring in business administration. Excuse me, I'm going to move up here so that I can let our other speaker come on in here. She's an undergrad student at Cal Lutheran, majoring in business administration. And she was her high school community relations coordinator at the Glenwood Gardens Retirement Home in Bakersfield. And lastly, would you like to come up? We have Wayne Swinson III, who is the student coordinator at the Community Service Center at Cal Lutheran. He also volunteers with seniors and that's been a long-time commitment for Wayne, who did so while attending Notre Dame High School in Riverside. Welcome, panelists.
Thank you, Andrea. So I'm here to tell you about a program I started at the Reserve, and I'll explain it, and then I'll interview these folks here. I got excited about the concept of legacy after reading David Solis' book, How to Say It to Seniors. His explanation of the need for seniors to establish a legacy, which he defines as how they will be remembered, it spoke to me. He also described the role of a legacy coach. It is someone who will spend time with a senior asking open-ended questions and truly listening to them to help them process their life and its meaning. For counselors like me, this is very much like the therapeutic relationship we all need to process our life at any stage. But as we age, we have fewer people in our lives. Our spouses may have passed, or frankly, are no longer truly listening. There are many reasons seniors no longer have someone, Joyce should be laughing at that, with the time and patience to help them sort out their lives. Mr. Solis encourages anyone who has the urge to be a legacy coach to do it for someone they know. At the Reserve, we have a very intellectual and socially active group of residents. I created the Legacy Coach Project to bring in volunteers who would be trained to serve as coaches. As I reached out to Cal Lutheran University's Community Service Center, I met an awesome young man by the name of Wayne Swinson over here. Coincidentally, he was looking for opportunities for a program he wanted to start called Senior Buddies. This project suited both of our goals, so we were a perfect match. CLU volunteers read the Legacy Coach chapters of Mr. Solis' book. They had to give us a commitment that they would meet at least once a week with their senior for this semester. And the guidelines were simple. Ask open-ended questions and truly listen. They are to take notes, pay attention to what lights up the senior, or what threads of stories are repeated and therefore important to the senior. I also asked that this be a completely confidential relationship. This encourages our residents to speak more freely. At the end of the semester, the CLU student will present the senior with a written set of notes or an essay, including what they feel they learned from the senior and what they thought the senior felt was important in their life. The senior will review it at the end of this with the legacy coach and possibly have them alter it to assure that it reflects them accurately. Then they can do what they want with the written version. Show it to family, keep it for themselves, whatever. We're actually not to that part yet. This is still a work in progress, but it seems to be working. So I've invited the participants to give us an update. So starting with the lovely Christine. Christine, is your mic on? Yes.
Yes.
Why did you want to be involved in this program?
Well, as you heard before, I was involved in my high school about doing things with the senior community and was very involved because my grandma was a member of that community. And coming to Cal Lutheran, I knew that that was something in my life I wasn't ready to give up. So when this opportunity came to me, I knew that I had to jump at it, and I definitely wanted to be a part of it. And after meeting with Annette and then getting paired with the wonderful Joyce, I knew that it was the best experience I could have ever had.
What are you learning from Joyce?
Well, I've learned many things from Joyce, but one of the things that has really stuck with me is to live with a purpose, and that's something that she lives by, and she has taught me, and is something I've chosen to live by as well, because it's important that you wake up every morning, no matter what age you are, and have a purpose, something that you want to do, and a goal that you want to meet.
What do you think of the program overall?
I love the program. I think it's, like I said, one of the most amazing experiences of my entire life. And I truly wish that my grandma's own community would have something like this, so I would be able to get maybe a written report about her as well.
That's neat. Okay, now if you could push that towards Joyce. Joyce, you're on.
Okay.
What do you think legacy means to seniors?
Well, I think legacy is a very personal thing, and because I have been giving a lot of thought to this, and I'm also a writer. I recently finished a book about my great-grandfather for our grandchildren. So this is their great-great-grandfather, which Christine has read, 'cause she asked to read. I didn't push it on her. But anyway, primarily to give them a glimpse into what life was like and what it took to not only survive, but to succeed, and how bonds of love develop in a family, despite what's going on around you. I think the legacy I would leave, or that I hope that I'm leaving, is that family is ultra important, and part of that is the listening. I think that when children particularly are growing up, they have to have that voice in their ear, the grandma voice at any age, that's saying, everything's fine, you're doing well, and so on, and that it helps them build a lot of character. But the interesting thing is we've started a landslide here, because one of our grandsons read the book. He's in high school, but he got excited about it, so he and my daughter, they were going on a tour in the East to see colleges, and so they went to the old neighborhood where my grandfather had lived, and they walked up and down the streets and checked out the old houses, and it was a wonderful experience for them because they got all excited about it. So that when they got home, my daughter started to do an ancestry search, which we all want to do but never will. And she has gone back to the 1500s now in our family. And I have to tell you that I feel like I represent thousands of people, and from all these different walks of life. And all of a sudden, instead of just being today one person in a community, that each of us represent so much, that's such a tremendous legacy that the family needs to know about that and feel connected. So yeah, it's an important thing to do.
Good. And do you think having a legacy coach like this has been of value to you and to others at the Reserve that have done this work?
Absolutely, because we've dealt with a lot of questions that were personal, and Christine's insight into things is amazing, and it's been great.
It's been a two-way street.
And we have never talked about illness.
Yay!
Which is what happens when you talk constantly with seniors. Yeah. So it's very important.
I get that. And are you looking forward to receiving the written final project from Christine?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
That hasn't happened yet, but that's about a month away. Okay, that's excellent. All right, thank you. Now to Wayne. I don't know if you can turn your mic on down there, and Joyce can do that. Wayne is the Community Service Center at Cal Lutheran student coordinator. You're like the student director of that, correct?
Well, I think it's merely a student intern position, but thank you for the promotion.
Okay,
appreciate it.
You're very lofty with me.
Yeah.
So, why were you interested in getting involved in this new program? I kind of touched on it, but you have more of a story, I think.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try to keep it to 3 minutes. But I want to add, too, that this is just a wonderful family environment. I just love hearing everyone speak. Thank you. I think, to me, I was very fortunate to have a very close relationship with my great-grandfather, my great-grandmother, my grandparents, And it's something that is so close to my heart because I feel like the person that I'm kind of at this 20-something age right now has been shaped to a large extent from the older souls in my family. I mean, that's probably why people say I'm an old soul. I listen to like jazz and everything, and everybody's like, why don't you listen to something else? And I don't know. This is all I like to listen to. Leave me alone. But I just, everything I do in some respect came from a kind heart from an older relative. And that is kind of my impact that I wanted to share with my community. And what better way to do it with finding Annette from the reserve. And I just think it's something that is truly a blessing because all these people that you see here today are just golden souls, really. And, it just takes a certain type of person to kind of be patient and kind of show that compassion and empathy for someone regardless of age. I think, no matter what age you get, there's so much you can learn from. And I've had that kind of experience with a wonderful lady named Carol Smiler, and I wish she was here today. But so many lessons I've learned from her.
She's your senior at the reserve.
Or I'm her
great.
Young, I guess. Yeah.
You're her person.
Yeah, exactly.
And since you're the student coordinator, I have one last question. You're talking to the others like Christine and all the Natasha and all them.
Yeah.
What are you hearing from the participants on the student end? How's it going?
Nothing but beautiful compliments. I think, how many do we have signed up right now?
We had about 12 to 15, depending on,
Yeah, and it just, it was something that, I kind of just marketed to Cal Lutheran students. I was just like, hey, there's this project called Senior Buddies I'm working on. And immediately, so many people, so much enthusiasm and so much excitement and so much more to in fruition at the moment and to come. So it just was immediately, and it just keeps growing. So I'm just so excited for it.
Yeah, we're going to keep it going, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You heard it.
Yeah.
Okay, you're
our legacy.
Back up. All right. So back to Andrea, and I'm going to move. Thanks, Annette. Okay, I'd now like to introduce one of our council members, Jim Searden, who's been retired from his career in sales and marketing with GE for about 9 years. And he's been fortunate to spend his retirement volunteering in the community. He's been a commissioner in the Thousand Oaks Council on Aging for 8 years, 4 years as the chair. He's also on the board of the Goebel Adult Community Center, and he's served as a delegate to the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging and as a hospice volunteer. In his spare time, Jim indulges in his two passions, writing and acting in local theater. He is currently in rehearsal for his next big role, Big Daddy, in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which will open in Camarillo in late May.
Well said. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to start with a little disclaimer. I think I pretty well threw out my voice sometime last night in rehearsal, so if somewhere during the course of my spiel, if I start to sound like Gabby Hayes, I'd appreciate it if you'd cut me some slack there. I'm extremely interested in this whole legacy thing. It turns out I've been writing my legacy for a really long time. I just didn't know it. I've been writing my story. My story. I got a story to tell. I got a story that's absolutely amazing and fantastic because it's really unique. It's the only story in the whole wide world exactly like my story. And of course, that's true with you. It's true with your story. Your story is also absolutely unique. You know, as each of us have careened down our paths, we're like snowflakes and fingerprints. No two paths are exactly alike. They're all a little bit different, and each of us has different experiences from how we got from the beginning to where we are now. Yeah, I was thinking about paths and the fact that they are different, but there's one thing I think on our journey that we all share. At least from my perspective, I've never met anybody who didn't experience some of the rough road somewhere along the line. That didn't. Nobody has gone down their journey strictly on a primrose path. For the most of us, we've noticed the mud in the road, the rocks and the rills, and sometimes the just almost impossibly steep climb we have to make. For some of us, we've perhaps fallen along the way and have had to muster the will to get up and to rise and to move on. So that's kind of where my story has taken me in a way. My story is my recollection of my journey and my attempt to attach meaning to that journey. So I got a story, you got a story, all God's children got a story. So, the question comes up, okay, so what? Who cares? I mean, possibly none of these stories are going to end up in a blockbuster movie or make the New York Times bestseller list. So, why bother? Who cares? Well, I can't answer that for everyone, but I can answer it for me. I care. I want to make sense of my journey. I want to be able to understand how I got to where I am. What lessons have I learned? What conclusions have I drawn? This experience really is it's probably been my attempt to explain myself to me. Not an easy task. But actually, over the years, I have participated unknowingly in part of what would probably be considered legacy, in the sense that, oh gosh, for many years since the advent of video recorders, I've accumulated dozens and dozens of copies of the plays that I've been in and my performances, and I've sent them out to my children, and the response has been seriously underwhelming. The amount of significance they attach to my passion for the theater certainly does not match my own. But I'm glad they have these tapes, and if for no other reason, they can watch me grow old. I mean, they've seen me as a fairly young man, and they'll still see me now. So they can tell their children, yeah, I knew that guy when, and But mostly for them, it's just been, pop being pop. But that really isn't. The sending of those tapes isn't what I mean by legacy. I'm writing in my legacy work about what those tapes do mean to me. What I would like my children, or those who follow me, to understand about my passion for theater is the amount of time and energy that went into that, the significant part of my life that I gave over to that, the absolute love and drive and passion that drove me to spend so much of my life trying to perfect what I consider my art. I mean, I guess everyone's passion is kind of like that. If I were not an actor, if I were a cabinet maker, what I might leave behind is some magnificent piece of work, a table, a chair, a chest. But what I would want my children to know about that table wasn't what, hey, great table, Pop. I would like them to know what went into that, what part of me went into building that table, sanding that corner just right, making that joint fit perfectly. That I can stand back and say every bit of energy, every bit of my strive for perfection went into making that table. And I feel a little bit that way about the tapes, about my life in the theater. But I got started talking about, or thinking about legacy quite a few years ago when my mom had turned 80. So at that point, the concept of her mortality wasn't simply academic. And I got to wondering, well, what will be my remembrances of Mother? What were the significant moments in her life that shaped her into the woman that I adore? Oh God, I loved my mother. More than loving her, we actually liked each other a whole lot. We enjoyed each other's company. We were close enough to talk about anything. We could tease each other, kid each other, laugh and cry with each other. I guess I thought I knew my mother better than anybody on the planet. So one day I approached her and said, Mom, why don't we just go sit down somewhere and you just tell me a little bit about your life? And she agreed, and we went out on the patio in her home down in San Diego, and I drug out my video recorder. You remember back in the 80s, those things were about the size of orange crates, you know. But anyway, I got that thing fired up, and we sat down and started talking. And unwittingly, I took the approximate approach that some of the coaches take here. I started asking generalized leading questions, you know. So how'd you meet Pop? Who was your best friend in elementary school in St. Louis? What caused you guys to move from there to Tech? Little general questions like that triggered her memory. And what was kind of fascinating about that memory process is that with every memory that she started on, it would trigger another memory. Like opening a door to this memory vault, and she'd scurry down the hallway to a whole nother memory. And that would open another door still. And in the course of this 2-hour rambling remembrances, dozens of previously unlocked doors got opened, and I got to hear things I had never heard before. I guess I learned more about my mom that day in those 2 hours than I had in all the previous time in my life. Some of the interesting things about the process wasn't necessarily the recollection of the events themselves, but more how she felt about them, how they affected her. What did it mean to her to go through that experience? I got during that 2 hours, I got to not only hear it, but I got to see it in her face, the smiles and the contentment on her face when we was recalling pleasant moments. Moments of downright slap your knee, roaring laughter when she recalled some of the hysterical moments of her life. And of course, there were the other side, the loss, sense of tragedies that everybody seeks, everybody has. Yeah, I learned so much about my mother. It was seeing my mother without the mommy mask, the real person that I've loved so dearly. I got to tell you, I treasure that tape. It's only 2 hours. I wish it was 3 hours, 6 hours, 100 hours. But it's completely irreplaceable. It means that much to me. So that started me on my own little journey to try to discover what my life means to me. During the course of my life, I am a writer, and I've written many, many stories. I didn't necessarily aim them at the concept of legacy. They were just remembrances of significant events in my life. And many of them centered around what I would call the concept of the little moment. And my definition of the little moment is that tiny sliver of time where circumstance and choice changed everything. Changed the way I thought about the world or thought about someone, changed the way I saw myself, maybe times that altered my sense of ethic or morality. Whatever the change, it was a change. It took me down a totally different path than I'd been on before. You know, after all, when you get right down to it, we are nothing more than the collection of the choices that we've made. One of the absolutely marvelous things about my time with Mom was that I got to understand more about how she got to be this person that I cared so much about. And I want to be able to say that to my children. I want them to get some sense of what this journey has been like for me. You know, one of the things this exercise has given me the opportunity to do, and this may not be important to everyone, but it's incredibly important to me, it's given me a chance to review, perhaps with softer, wiser, saner eyes, the consequences of my choices. I'm going to say that again because it's so important to me. I got a chance to review the consequences of my choices. Maybe a little metaphor I came up with the other day might explain more what I mean. I happened to be out in Conejo Creek Park not very long ago, and happened to my eye was turned toward one of those big oak trees out there. And there's lots of oak trees, but this particular one drew my attention because it had a low-hanging branch, great big branch, got the diameter about the size of an automobile tire. But to look at the thing, it was absolutely grotesque. It was scary looking. It was all twisted and turned and this way and that way. And in this particular branch, actually was going along like living things want to do, heading toward the sun. And all of a sudden, it does this entire 360-degree turn, and all the way around. Took probably 50, 60 years, and then started back out again on the path. And wow, that was amazing to me. Just looking at a car wreck, it was hard to look away. It was so grotesque looking. And then I looked at some of the other branches and the rest of that tree, and all of them were similar. They weren't quite that dramatic, but all of them had little twists and turns and gnarls, and to me it suggested struggle. You know, life's going along fine, and then something happens, and some of it even looked tortured. So each one of these things individually, a long way from what you would call beautiful, a lot closer to what you'd call grotesque or ugly. But then I stepped back and I got a look at that oak tree, that big giant oak tree. And you know what was amazing? Every one of those twisted, gnarled branches seemed to be in perfect symmetry with the totality of that oak tree. Every twist just right. Every turn absolutely correct, making this incredibly symmetrical, magnificent living thing. Well, I guess the metaphor's pretty obvious. I saw those branches and those twists and turns as examples of my life and the deal-breaking decisions that I've made that took me down paths I didn't want to go, took me fearfully to a place that challenged me. So I got to thinking about that. There's a message there for you, Jimmy. There is a message. I can look back on all of the good and bad of my life, and I can bless them, even the bad things. But guess what? It brought me here. All of those things made up what has brought me to this place, to this panel, this opportunity to serve my community, this opportunity to get in the car tonight and go rehearse a play I want to do, this life that I live where I wake up every morning head over heels in love with my wife. I got here because of all of those turns and twists. I am so grateful for some of the things that I was so frightened of at the time. I am so grateful that those things happened to me because here I am. All of that's gone into making what I consider a peaceful, wonderful life. So I guess the message I would give to my children, or the conclusion I would give to myself about that, is you needn't fear the dark. The changes that come about, the things that you don't want to do, the things that you're forced to change, the decisions you make. Yeah, they look bad. They don't think you'll ever overcome them, but guess what? You do. And you know what's really good about that? I think it's in the dark places that you really learn things, that you really actually grow. When you're in the midst of the dark, you learn perseverance, courage maybe, strength, tolerance, compassion, love. I don't think you come to grips with those things without the twists and turns that life brings us. So that kind of is an example of what my efforts to legacy is aiming toward. Again, I repeat this because I like it. My attempt is to make my life, to explain my life to myself, to make me understand who in the heck I am and how I got here. So I don't know, I guess everybody's version of their legacy is going to be different. Some people might not want to dig into the dark places the way I do. I'm a little overly introspective. But they may just want to share the grandness and the glory of their life, the fun things, the commitments and the family and all of that. That's great. That is your story. My story? Well, it's not written yet. It's not completed yet, that is to say. I'm still, my branches are still turning, they're still twisting, and who knows where tomorrow's going to take me. But I'm not afraid of it anymore. I don't fear those changes. You know, I think it was Socrates who said, or maybe it was Pee Wee Herman, I get those guys confused, but what he said was, the unexamined life is not worth living. That actually sounds pretty harsh. But I will say this. The examined life, well, that's an adventure. That's a journey you might want to take. Yes, sir, that's worth the toll. So my advice to you and what I leave you with is this. Saddle up, take that ride, and bon voyage. Thank you very much.
Jim, that was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. How do you follow up with that? I don't know. What I did want to do, though, was talk a little bit about ways in which we can express our legacy, because I think sometimes we get bogged down into it must be a book, or it a videotape session, or and I think there's so many ways to express things, and so I just want to talk about those a little bit. When I was a kid, my dad had slide projector. Remember the old days when they had a slide projector? And we'd ask my dad, he'd spend 20 minutes filling that little carousel with all these little slides. And we'd say, Daddy, Daddy, every time we got together as an extended family, put the slide projector on. And we'd look at pictures of when we were 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and my mother with her cat glasses, and, you name it. And so whether it's photo scrapbooks or digitally published books, right now you can go to any printing supply store and they'll create a lovely book for you. I don't know if you know that. Just bring them a bunch of photos. But those are ways that people use. Sometimes it's just photographic memories. Memoirs, like Jim is talking about. Videos of special events. Whether it's somebody's wedding. Now, I never chose to have a wedding video, probably because I knew everybody was going to be smashed at my wedding. So no sense in filming that. But videos of special events, whether it be weddings or graduations or other, piecing those together. My aunt was very interested in our family history, and she's traced us back only to the 1700s, not to the 1500s. But family histories and genealogy can be a way in which you can help to express your legacy. Heirlooms or prized possessions with notes about their meaning. I remember there's a book called Grandma's Yellow Pie Plate, and it talks about the fact that often the real issue with families that don't have a will or don't have express wishes about things as when they pass isn't so much the money, surprisingly enough. It's those prized possessions. And I watched that particularly with my dad and his sister. They were only 2 of them in the family. And when my grandma and grandpa had passed, they had an antique rifle in the family. And my aunt lived right next to my grandparents. And I remember my aunt picking up that gun, even though the gun had been promised to my dad, the boy in the family, for many years. My aunt picked up that gun, and it stayed in the possession of her daughter for about 5 years. And for 5 years, my father, nice guy that he is, never said a word. But it sat with him. And I would tell you that heirlooms and prized possessions, if there's one thing to think about, is who should those go to? And name those things, because those are some of the most important things. My mother had a little tin cup that's a measuring cup, and my mother is a wonderful cook, wonderful baker. Used to bake pies and cakes and cookies with her. I remember that as part of my childhood vividly. And they were moving from one house to another, and she was cleaning out things, and she said, "Do you want this cup?" And I said, "Are you serious? You're going to give me that cup?" And she said, "Yes, this cup is for you." And that cup sits on my desk every day, and I look at that beautiful cup. It's a wonderful memory of the time with my mom cooking. Other ways, family recipes, food and holiday traditions. My guess is that there's not a person in this room that doesn't have some sort of food holiday tradition. Artistic creations, quilts or paintings or collages or woodworking. There's a thing, I don't know how many of you know what an ethical will or a legacy letter is, but it's some of the things that Jim had talked about in terms of writing down your values, what's important to you, why it's important to you, the things you learned from your experience. from your experiences. And that is probably, and the way they talk about it is bequeathing internal wealth. But it's those things that, as Jim talked about, the most memorable with his mother. It wasn't how much money he left her. It wasn't, many of those things that one might have thought, but it was that internal wealth that she was able to share with him. And of course, there were financial and material gifts. What I'd like to do is share with you a couple of resources that can help. That list that I just talked about is in this book, Live Smart After 50. So there's a chapter on legacy in here. And what this is a sort of a compilation of, what would I call it? All sorts of, I'll call it a holistic viewpoint of living smart after 50. And one of them, of course, is legacy and purpose, because that's so important. Another is this book called Legacy, a step-by-step guide to writing a personal history. And this prompts you with a series of questions in many different topic areas. So it's a wonderful way to start that process, and it might be one you guys want to use for your project. There is a project that was started by a professor at Cornell University, and so he has gone out and asked thousands of people, what's the one thing, for instance, that you know now that you didn't know when you were in your 20s? Amongst many other topics. And so people have gone on there and shared their personal legacies. And so it's Legacy Project, if you'd like to take a look at that. And I think earlier I mentioned Life Chronicles, the nonprofit organization in Santa Barbara that travels all over the country. And no fee required, although a donation is appreciated, but will help film people near end of life. So that you can capture some of those stories and pieces of personal legacy. And with that, I'll just leave you with one of the things that we do at Senior Concerns, which is really helping to nurture legacies one family at a time. And the way that we do that is through helping families through the aging experience, everywhere from baby boomers all the way to end of life. So with that, I just want to say thank you. This was a rich, interesting topic, and I thank all of the presenters. Thank you.
Wow. Well, that certainly was at an emotional level not many of us have seen on live television, but thank you all, folks, and Annette, thank you for starting the CLU. I'm sorry, Francine? Oh, commissioners. I'm sorry. Commissioners, any questions, thoughts, or?
You fell asleep, yes.
Oh, God, stop it. Yeah, Nick.
Yeah, Jim, wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed that, and it reminded me of a couple of things. I started putting my story to writing almost 20 years ago, and at that time I was inspired by what I had first learned about Alzheimer's disease, and I had an image that Alzheimer's disease was going to erase my memory every night, and that each morning I thought I could wake up and I could read my story, and it was a little bit like restoring from backup, and I could live the rest of that day as who I really am and so forth, even though I'd have to do it all over again the next day. And the second thought that occurred to me is I was reminded that a long, long time ago I got a letter in the mail announcing to me that I had been selected for inclusion in some volume of Who's Who in America. And I don't remember what the criteria were for somebody's making this decision, but I do know that it really wasn't important enough to become part of my story, that really had nothing to do with what my story, and I think you expressed it much better than I have, that it's sort of trying to understand myself to myself, or explain myself to myself, and what made me make the decisions that I did. Thank you.
Christy, what part of your experience is going to be a part of your college experience or a part of your ongoing life experience?
That's a very good question. Actually, a lot of it I've been able to already apply to what I've been doing in college. Like I said before, living with a purpose is so true, because a lot of us view education maybe as something we take for granted and as something I've never taken for granted. And I know it's really important when you wake up in the morning to have that purpose of going to classes or completing things or making a goal. Currently, I'm looking at internships as to further my career. So once I get out of college, I'll be able to start that career. And Joyce has been so kind to give me so much things that she already knows about the certain career path I'm going into and things that she learned throughout her life that she's been able to share with me as well.
I have to say it's wonderful, and you reach this age to find somebody who's interested in listening.
That's true. At any age.
Annette, I know you sort of started this, and I heard that Wayne's a senior, so is this going to be perpetuated, do you think?
I'm in if you're in, and there'll always be somebody in his seat, right? Yep. But it is replicable. And this is we can use different organizations, different schools, different senior communities. We can use the Goebel Center. I mean, I'd like to see this. This was set up as a kind of a trial program because I just brainstormed it, and here we are. So if this works, which I don't see any problem with, I'll teach others to do it. So it'll be great. Yeah, I'd love to do it again.
Good for you, Annette. Good for you. And Wayne, are you going to use sort of this experience in your future as you see it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. Mine's is, I'm a biology major, so I think a lot of times people are like, well, where's that connection? But I really look at bio as a study of life, really ambiguous. But I don't know exactly what I would like to do. I know I would like to be around people of some sort. So hopefully, my tries at medical school will help me in that regard. But that being said, I think whatever you put yourself into, you get out of it. And that being said, just talking and having discussion, you learn those little mementos of someone's, own legacy, like we were talking about, as far as you'll just strike up conversation and a certain memory from their past will come up. And in that way, they kind of in a way are guiding their life story to your needs. And I'm still shaping mine, and hopefully I can use this in the future either as a doctor that works with gerontology or one that works with adolescents. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I really would love to work with kids and adolescents. I feel like that's the nice place for me right now. Thank you.
Well, you got our recommendation.
Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts?
I'd like to volunteer as a senior who's been around, and around the world, I mean. And anytime you want a mentor or examples to point to, I'd be glad to be part of your buddies.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for either watching us here or on the TV, and thank you especially to the panel. Jim? Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Thank you again. I guess we'll...
Hear me, I'll be doing a Southern accent.
Ooh, it's getting better. It's getting better. All right. Thanks again, folks. Let's adjourn the meeting here at 2:44.